So Joseph McBride is the lawyer you just saw opposite that smirking buffoon from CNN who didn't want to hear the facts. But we do want to hear the facts. What are the facts of the people who were swept up in the manhunt after January 6th? Where are they now? How are they being treated? They're American citizens, after all. Joseph McBride, we are proud to say, joins us in the studio now. Mr. McBride, thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you, Tucker. It's good to be here.
So we are interested in the details, whether you agree with the individual cases, what the people did or what they didn't do. These are American citizens. Not one of them is accused of murder. How are they being treated? They're being treated horribly, forced to live in egregious and filthy conditions.
For months, they've been beaten, they've been starved, they've been denied medical care. This is documented. Just recently, Judge Royce Lamberth of the D.C. District Court held the D.C. jail in contempt. And an investigation happened. In anticipation of the investigation, the D.C. jail sent janitors and maintenance men down to the Patriot Wing to purge it of its filth, to paint the walls, to scrub the rust, to get rid of the black mold in 24 hours, thwarting the investigation and allowing the investigation to look at one side of the jail while the other side of the jail was essentially swept clean. What happened? The other side of the jail got condemned. All of those people are being moved to Lewisburg in Pennsylvania because it was filthy. But because the Patriot Wing was actually purged of its filth, those men are still going to be kept there going forward. And now they're going to be alone. The question is, what is going to happen to them next?
So, look, just to be clear, these are not people who tried to commandeer civilian airliners and fly them into the Pentagon. These are not people who were caught assembling suicide bombs.
Of course not.
Tell us some of the things these people are charged with.
Some of these people have been charged with terrorism. Right. Other people have been charged with crimes, including assaulting federal officers with deadly weapons, being on Capitol grounds with deadly weapons, the combination of which could land some of these people in jail who have never been convicted of any crime before for 20 or 30 years.
Deadly weapons. Now, my understanding is that there were no firearms found on any of the participants in this event. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So you had riots across the country in the preceding summer where people were running around firing weapons in the air. A dozen people were murdered. Are any of those activists being held in similar conditions in the D.C. jail?
Of course not. Not only that, the Vice President of the United States of America participated in a fund to help advertise to get them bailed out. It's a complete double standard. It is not equal treatment under the law. These are political persecutions, prosecutions. There's no doubt about it.
So you make a really interesting point. Kamala Harris, or Kamala Harris, however she's pronouncing it at the moment, helped raise money for some of the Antifa terrorists who destroyed our cities. Has anybody raised money for these defendants?
We have tried since Jump Street to raise money in a meaningful way. We were handicapped by GoFundMe. We were deplatformed by PayPal. You name it, most of the crowdsourcing websites and organizations prevented us. There's a relationship, a love relationship between President Brandon and the big tech conglomerate that they worked to deplatform us, make sure we could not raise money for the defense. Thank God for organizations like Give, Send, Go, where you can go to find the clients there and give to whoever you want to. But it's been a terrible experience.
So. One thing that not to make a class issue out of this, but it's just very noticeable that a lot of the Antifa members are basically rich kids, like you can tell.
Indeed.
Right? They all had braces as kids, obviously. These defendants are, had a disproportionate amount of personal debt. These are working class people.
Yes.
And some of them are stuck with public defenders in Washington, D.C., if I'm not mistaken. Is that correct?
Yes. And many of these public defenders do not like them. Many of these public defenders have told them, you should probably just take a plea. I voted for Biden. I've done this. I've done that. Look, I was a public defender for the first 5 years of my career, and I didn't like everything that my clients were accused of doing or very well might have been. But I never once expressed anything like that to them because it is highly inappropriate in this set of circumstances. And yes, these are middle-class people with a tremendous amount of debt who cannot afford meaningful defense, private defense, absent intervention, and they're being hamstrung by the government.
Well, the whole point of a public defender is you defend someone who you might not necessarily agree with, but you're not allowed to your personal bigotries ought not to affect the legal representation.
Sure.
So, how about if a public defender said to an African-American defendant, I'm a racist, I'm sorry, just deal with it. I mean, that would not be a legitimate defense attorney, correct?
You're exactly right, and that is exactly the case, except it's politics here. Now, I don't want to throw all of them under the bus. There are some very good ones out there, but there are some public defenders that are representing January 6th defendants right now who absolutely should not be doing it because they cannot get over their hatred of President Trump. They cannot get over their hatred of Christianity. They cannot get over their hatred of white men or anything that's traditional in America. They've expressed these views. It's objectionable. It should not be happening. It is happening now, and it's very wrong.
It certainly is. All Americans have the constitutional right to be judged equally before the law, and that's not happening at all. And I'm grateful you're there. Joseph McBride, thank you.
Thank you, Tucker.
Appreciate it.